Okay, fallacies of presumption, section 3.4, part 2. We'll finish off the last three fallacies of presumption. Okay, complex question. Let me read this up here. Committed when two or more questions are asked in the guise of a single question, and a single answer is then given to both of them. This question traps, and that's the key here. It just you can't answer this question honestly. It's not going to be a reflection of you, your character, with a yes or no, because it's complex. It's actually got two different questions built in, or more than one. Traps the respondent into acknowledging something that he or she might otherwise not want to acknowledge. It is asking a question that illegitimately presupposes some conclusion alluded to in the question. It is important to break down the complex question into its component questions and answering each separately. So, have you stopped cheating on your exams? Well, if you said no, this means you were cheating and haven't stopped, and that may not be what you mean at all. If you say yes, that means you were cheating and now you're not. Okay, if I got that all straight without mixing it up. What you want to do is break this up into two questions. So really, if someone says, if you stop cheating on your exam, you want to say, well, let's slow down. Really what you're asking me first is, did you cheat on your exams? And if you say no, then you don't have to answer. If so, have you stopped? Okay? So instead of, hey, have you stopped cheating on your exams? You want to say, you know what, let's slow down. You're asking me first, did I cheat on my exams? No, I never have, and since I never have, then I didn't need to stop. Or you could say, yes, I have cheated on exams, and if so, have I stopped? Yes, I have stopped. Hopefully you say yes, I have, and it's not no. Okay? So this is pretty basic. Where did you hide the marijuana? You'd want to say, hey, let's slow down. You really are asking me two different questions, and we need to do them in order. Were you smoking marijuana? You smoking marijuana. Then the second one, if so, where did you hide it, right? So were you smoking marijuana? No. Therefore, I didn't hide it because I wasn't smoking it. Or were you smoking marijuana? Yes. If so, where did you hide it? Shoved it under the couch before you walked into the front door, Mom. Something like that. And nobody should be smoking marijuana. It's not good for you. Okay, a little plug. I'm a teacher, and I'm supposed to have a good example for everybody. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Okay, let's go to false dichotomy. False dichotomy. This is committed when a disjunctive, an either-or statement, is a premise, and it presents two unlikely alternatives as if they were the only ones available, and the arguer then eliminates the undesirable alternative, leaving the desirable one as the conclusion. The argument is valid in form, and I'll explain that in a minute, but since the disjunctive premise is false, or at least probably false, the argument is typically unsound. So the key this is, if someone gives you a disjunctive statement as a premise, it's a fallacy when they're giving you two alternatives, and they're really not the only two alternatives. There is a third one that they're leaving out. What they typically do is they give you the desirable alternative, or the one they want you to accept, and they want you to think that if you don't pick this, then the only other alternative is something just ridiculous or horrible. So here's the form these often take. Now this is a valid form. It's called disjunctive syllogism. Either P or Q, and this is called disjunctive syllogism, and that would be DS. This is a valid skeleton, and you talked about argument forms in Chapter 1 already. Either P or Q, and the condition with this syllogism, one of them, it has to be one of them. It's either P or it's Q. not P, that means it isn't P, therefore it has to be Q. Now, this is a valid form, okay? Either P or Q, and if it's got to at least be one of those, and you've already said it isn't P, well, it's got to be this Q. You've got to bring it down, right? So, that's what they're doing. They're putting this into a valid disjunctive syllogism form, but it's a fallacy because it could be either P or Q or R, and they leave the R out. So, Dixie Chicks, let's call that D. Let me attend the Dixie Chicks concert, the whole thing we'll call D. Or I'll be miserable for my life, that proposition we'll call M. So, it's either D or M. Either you let me go to the Dixie Chicks concert, or I'm going to be miserable for my life. I know that you don't want me to be miserable, right? Not M. Therefore, you will let me go to the Dixie Chicks concert, okay? That's what's going on here. And that's a fallacy. How about, well, you know what? You're not going to go to the Dixie Chicks concert, and you may be miserable for a little bit. We'll call it little bit miserable, okay? For T1, time T1, and maybe that's about an hour. So you're not going to go to that, but you know you're not going to be miserable your whole life, maybe just for a little bit, okay? So nice try. Here's another one. Either you buy only American-made products, or you don't deserve to be called a loyal American. Yesterday you bought a new Toyota. It's therefore clear that you don't deserve to be called a loyal American. Okay, so buy American, let's call that B, everybody. You don't deserve to be called a loyal American, not L. You're not a loyal American. You're not going to be called a loyal American. Okay, so if we're going to put that down, either you buy American, or you're not going to be called, buy an American car, you're not going to be called a loyal American, okay? Yesterday you bought a new Toyota. We can still use that with B. We could just say, if you bought a Toyota, this means you didn't buy American, right? So that would be like not B. Therefore, it's clear that you're not a loyal American. But this doesn't follow. Just because you didn't buy American doesn't mean you're not a loyal American. I know a lot of people, if the American car company is building very bad cars like the Ford Pinto way back then, you're doing the American car industry a favor. You're telling them, if you build junk, I won't buy it. And when your bottom line is a lot smaller, you're not making as much profit, or you're in trouble, this will motivate you to buy better cars. So because of my loyalty to America, I won't buy your cars when they're bad cars. This will get you out of the chair, work harder. You will start making better cars if you want to be around, and then I'll start buying them. And because I didn't buy the cars before when they were bad cars, you're in much better shape now. So I bought better cars off the continent, let's say, because I thought in the long run it would help American car industry. And now I'm buying American because the cars are good. You know, the Ford Fusion, that car rocks. You know, we got some good cars now. Okay, all right. And the American car industry is better because of competition. Okay, all right. Let's go to the last one, suppressed evidence. Suppressed evidence. This is committed when an inductive argument ignores an important piece of evidence that outweighs the presented evidence and entails a different conclusion. Stronger evidence is ignored which supports a different conclusion. This is very key. If you're suppressing evidence, you're leaving it out, the argument seems fine, okay, and that conclusion seems warranted. But with suppressed evidence, if there's another bit of evidence out there, and if you bring this in, it actually entails that the conclusion be different. A presumption is created that the premises are not only true, but complete. Nothing else is suppressed or missing, when in fact something is suppressed or missing. Okay? So here, let's go down to this example real quick here. It's actually, I think it's kind of funny. Most dogs are friendly, and we can call them, let's say most little dogs. Let's just put little fellers in there, little furry little fellers. Most little dogs are friendly and pose no threat to people who pet them. Therefore, it would be safe to pet the little dog that is approaching now. Okay, that seems okay, but if the arguer ignores the fact that the little dog is excited and he's foaming or frothing at the mouth, then the argument commits the suppressed evidence fallacy because, well, you needed to tell me the little dog had rabies because most dogs are friendly and pose no threat to people who pet them. Bring in the suppressed evidence. This little dog coming up is frothing at the mouth and seems hyper excited. Therefore, it's not safe to pet this little dog approaching. But if you don't know that, you think it is, okay? Now, before I end here, this is what you need to do with some of these fallacies. You're going to find a few where you're going to get confused or mix them up sometimes. And we have two here. What is the difference between begging the question fallacies and suppressed evidence? Because both are leaving something out, right? You want to understand how each of them are distinct. Suppressed evidence is something that's left out. Once it's brought back in, that conclusion changes. But with begging the question, the issue there is you are leaving something out, but you need to bring that something in to argue for the stated conclusion. It's not going to change the conclusion. It may not be enough to really support that conclusion, but bringing in what was left out, you need for the same conclusion, the stated conclusion, you've got to put it in there whether it's shaky or not. So begging the question and suppressed evidence, both do leave something out here. Both have got to bring it in, but with suppressed evidence, the bringing that thing in changes the conclusion. With begging the question, it's not an issue of the conclusion now changes, is you at least need to get that in there to argue for the stated conclusion, and that shaky premise being brought in may still not be enough to imply and argue for the stated conclusion, but it never changes it, okay? And you see that line of thinking there? That's what you want to do when you study. You want to go, okay, I keep confusing these two with these fallacies, so I need to make sure I know what the difference is. And I sort of wrote it out, but you know why I wrote this out? It's because I thought this out myself, and so don't get lazy. When you're confronted with a good question, don't stop there. Don't go, oh, I wonder what the difference between suppressed evidence is and begging the question. You want to go, okay, I need to figure this out so I know how they're distinct, so I properly, I don't get the answer wrong. I don't call something begging the question when I really should have said suppressed evidence and vice versa. Okay, that concludes fallacies of presumption. We will then go to the other fallacies. I think in the book you have two for fallacies of ambiguity and two for fallacies of grammatical analogy. And we'll go with those with the next video coming up. We might be able to wipe out all four, or I'll make them separate. Okay? All right, we're done.